Welcome to the Murphy, Sam, and Jodi After the Show podcast.
So Lori had emailed us at murphysamandjodi.com about type 1 diabetes. She heard us mention it a couple of days ago. She heard it on the podcast and said that she wants to hear more because her daughter, who is in college now, has just been diagnosed like late last year. So that's brand new to the world of type 1 diabetes. And Murphy is our type 1 diabetic. I say ours. You're a type 1 diabetic, one of the few. Only 6%, is that right, of the world's diabetic population are type 1?
Yeah, because 94% is type 2. And
so let's do this for Lori and her daughter.
Yeah, right. I mean, for anybody else who needs to understand or is experiencing. So I don't know how old Lori's daughter is, college age. I'm assuming no younger than 18, no older than early 20s.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, that's long enough in your life where you've already established a lot of your eating habits and things that you're used to, and so it's a significant life change. Really, and it doesn't necessarily wind up being a life change in what you eat as much as how you manage everything else. Eating's part of it, but the whammy is the fear factor that you wind up with. It's like, okay, I'm insulin dependent now, so there is no cure for it. It's not going away. There's nothing that you did to cause it. Therefore, there's nothing that you can do to make it go away. So all you can do is manage it.
When I go back to when you were diagnosed, Murphy, you and I had just started really spending time together. We were new in a relationship.
Yeah.
And there is so much to learn all of a sudden about keeping yourself alive. There's so much medical information that you have to learn, but there's another component going on, and that is the psychological, the acceptance of it. I think it was maybe a month after you were living with it and giving yourself shots and understanding that your pancreas didn't make insulin anymore. Like you had to do this thing for yourself that your body used to naturally do, that other people don't even ever have to think about. And I remember you saying, I'm ready for this to just go away.
Yeah.
And as soon as you said it, you knew it was this look in your eye like, but it's not going to go away.
Right. Yeah.
And so there's a lot at onset. There's a lot right now that you, Lori, and your daughter are probably still processing.
I guess you could say that was the moment of acceptance, for me, of having to manage it. I mean, obviously, you're going to spend a lifetime of having moments where it's frustrating to you. But the way the technology and everything is so much better today. The science, everything it was a huge study that they did in the 90s where they saw that tight control basically, would keep you from ever having any sort of complications. And I've been very blessed. So I've had it now. I was diagnosed in 99. Wow. So that was 27 years ago. I've had it for 27 years. Hard to believe. And
so you hear yourself say that and you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I have no complications. So I guess that's the first thing. Lori, just so you know, as a mom, if it's managed tightly, it absolutely can be done that way. And the tight control is the combination of what they've got today, which are glucose monitors. And even if you don't have that to wear, then the finger stick is always there. You will learn the numbers, you'll learn the dosages, you'll learn all of those things. And a lot of times what they'll do before they put you on a pump is have you do shots first so that you understand
manually what you're doing.
Yeah, you need to actually really understand. And I don't know. Look, there may be some doctors now that recommend straight to pump for tight control. But you have to understand the dangers, I guess, of insulin too, because if you overdose, you're going to go low, and that'll put you into a diabetic coma, or worse. And I lost my train of thought. Oh, shots. Okay. So giving the shots and all that manually teaches you really the mechanics of what's going on, because once you know that, then you will understand why you're programming your pump the way that you are and how you're using, your
giving
pump.
Yourself insulin.
But the insulin pump and the smart pumps of today, and the fact that the monitors, the glucose monitor that you wear can also communicate with the pump, is tighter control now than it's ever been before. And the tight control is the key, because that's the complications part. What's frustrating about type 1 diabetes is you're managing two different sides of things. You're managing against the lows, and you're managing against the highs.
You're trying to keep it in the middle.
Right, in the middle. And so because, low dose, a low is very possible because you're giving it, You're giving yourself insulin manually, even with with a pump. But back to the diagnosis for Lori's daughter. Give her time, space to get through that. Knowing other type 1s or conversations like these actually help make the difference, because you realize, okay, it's normal. It doesn't make you weird. It doesn't make you an outcast or anything like that. There's nothing that you did. It's not your fault. I mean, you have all these things that you go through. You're really grieving the loss. It's like all of those things, the denial.
You used to have freedom.
Yeah, denial all the way through acceptance, and that takes a little bit of time. But once you adjust to that, technology is such today that it's so much easier to manage than before. I think what she's going to find is you're a lot more focused on when you travel, what you have to travel before you go anywhere, before you leave the house, if you're going to be on an extended. A lot of the spontaneity goes away in some things that you can do, because you have to make sure that you've got your. Even if you're stopping for 30 seconds to say, okay, do I have my finger stick, or do I have another CGM if I need it? Do I have enough insulin in the pump right now? Do I have backup? Is my prescription up to date? All those things.
It's a lot to manage. And do you have something to treat with?
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, and I don't, the longer, that's what's weird. I used to carry those nasty glucose tablets.
I remember those.
In my pocket, and thank goodness there are alternatives. Sometimes, look. In an emergency, you should have something for an emergency, because you hope to never need it or use it, but it's there. But 9 times out of 10 for me, a Sprite is a lot more convenient, easy. And, if I'm traveling, if I'm at an airport, if I'm near a convenience store, wherever, I'm going to be able to find something to treat with,
I think over the years in talking to people, we met a family once at a children's hospital, and we were doing a radiothon, and the mom, I ended up talking to the mom a little bit, because she realized that you were a type 1 diabetic, and she realized that I was living with you. She was living with her child, who was like a preteen. And she was like, the thing that kills me, that gets me, is the misconception. It's so complicated. It's not us as a family learning everything. She says, we had no problem learning everything about how her life was going to change and what she was going to need to do. And, we had no problem learning all that, and we understand it. Mm-hmm. But it's the rest of the world, because, I think she said that they were at a big table, like at a birthday party, and somebody said something to them about, oh, she can't have any cake. Don't she can't have any cake.
Yeah, and I still get that today. It's like, no, I can have cake. It's okay to have cake. As long as I have the right amount of insulin,
you have to manually do what your body used to do for you.
Yeah.
And you also have to just learn that the world doesn't understand, and be okay with that.
Sure, and it doesn't, right, because it's my responsibility to take care of it. It's no one else's. Again, it's not my fault I have it. It certainly is no one else's fault that I've got it. So it's up to me to to manage it.
I think one of the first times you dealt with the way other people perceive it was at a Christmas at my grandparents' house. Do you remember what I'm about to say?
Yeah, I do. And it was a really sweet. Diagnosed. It was a sweet gesture.
My grandmother, we were all coming over for, I don't know, was it Christmas time or some sort of get together? And he was new to the family, and she knew that he had just been diagnosed with diabetes.
Yeah.
And she brought over to him a sugar-free pie, which that's just so sweet of her to have done. But and I don't think you went into it with her. We just said thank you, which is the correct thing to do.
Yeah, I try to keep a brief explanation if needed, but when somebody's offering the gesture, 9 times out of 10, it's like, thank you. It's
correct.
Okay. Because, the truth about the sugar-free stuff, it's not sugar. It's carbohydrate in total that turns into sugar in your body, and fats and everything. Yeah. So,
it all counts.
Usually there's going to be an offset, and it's sugar-free stuff. The trade-off is going to be it's got more fat than sugar. And so if you really look at the label, there's never really a substantial calorie savings on it. And that goes back to what I was going to say a minute ago about the misconception about diet. Really, what I learned is that what they call the quote-unquote diabetic diet is really what we should all follow anyway. Somebody with type 1. With type 2, it's going to be more restrictive depending on what your doctor has said your dietary needs are, because that's a totally different type of diabetes. Your body still makes insulin. It just resists it, and depending on how that's done, you're managing the ability for the body to do the same kind of thing, but sometimes it's done with a combination of
Correct.
insulin.
That's different
and
patient
other,
to patient.
Right.
Every single
And-
type 2 patient is different.
And a lot of times it can be managed through diet. Type 1 is not like that at all. But the biggest, and both of you know this because it changed a lot of things. For one thing, I quit smoking, which was very important. I was, a cigarette smoker and that got out of my life, which was great. And that was more difficult, honestly, than adapting my eating habits. But the truth is, and that I literally eat whatever I want, but I absolutely know the impact of everything that I eat more than anybody who doesn't pay attention to that on a regular basis. And what's weird is I do miss that part, of
eating freely.
Right. But it's really, I mean, and I don't mean this in a negative light whatsoever. It's just kind of an ignorance thing. Ignoring something doesn't necessarily make it not true. Mm-hmm. And because when you have to dose insulin, and I can see if I eat more, even with the smart pump, and I start using more insulin, that's my cue that, okay, I'm going to start gaining weight and other things. You immediately see
the impact.
Yeah. I remember the first one, and I was giving shots. Jodi remembers this well. And we'd ordered pizza one night, Sam, one of your favorite things. And so I thought that I'd calculated the carbs correctly I think I had 2 slices of pizza that night. Mm-hmm. And I dosed, and my sugar went crazy high that night. And so I called the diabetic nurse the next morning. I said, look, I guess I'm not managing this right. She said, what did you have last night? I had 2 slices of pizza. She said, that's your problem. You didn't calculate the amount of fat. She said, you ate about 1,000 calories, and you probably didn't dose for that. You were just thinking you had a handful of like 20 grams of carb. That's not what that piece of pizza, has in it.
It's the carbs with the fat, which slows down everything, which slows down insulin, and it slows down that job that the insulin that you dosed was in there in your bloodstream, but it was slowed down.
Well, it's not actually. I didn't dose enough insulin to cover that piece of pizza. That's the whole. That's the mental math part of it. And the thing is, in some when your body still makes it. Well, yeah, it
it peaks later, slows it.
But everything metabolizes to sugar. I guess except for protein. Fat becomes sugar hours later. That's everybody's body. Mm-hmm. That's not just a diabetic. That's everybody's body. That's why when you eat something like that, hours later, you might have this sudden, I want to take a nap. Mm-hmm. It's because your body is going, whoa, influx of sugar.
It's exactly also why when you have a low blood sugar, you treat with something fast, like a Coke, orange juice.
Oh, yeah, because a candy bar is not going to, you'll pass out before that candy bar takes hold.
It turns to sugar immediately. So when you need to treat a low blood sugar, it has to be fast. Yeah. You have to learn so much about the different components of what you put in your body. You honestly are so much more educated about what goes into your body, and you're more sensitive to your body, which I know you're not grateful for your diabetes, but it has taught you a lot about your health.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of components about it that it has. It's changed so many different things because, I was, 2 Pop-Tarts and
chocolate milk.
Chocolate milk was breakfast.
And a cigarette.
And a cigarette on the way to work, yeah. It wasn't a good long-term health plan,
Man, was it good.
But, so absolutely, that part has turned it around. But, back to Lori, just so that it's, even though all of those complex things, and I know that sounds highly technical, all the things that we've talked about, you and your daughter will learn those, and they do become second nature, and it's totally manageable. It just requires a certain focus. That's why a lot of type 1s that you run into, you don't know it until you have a conversation, or they pull their pump out, or something like that.
Right. It's not obvious that you're a type 1 diabetic until I hear that pump go dee-dee, dee-dee.
Right.
This is a vague memory that I had of when you first were diagnosed, but didn't you run to the grocery store right away and go to the diabetic aisle or something and buy a lot of low sugar things?
Well,
before talking to the nurse and all that.
So I was misdiagnosed, which is interesting because eventually you'll be in the hospital. You're not going to be able to be misdiagnosed with type 1 for very long. Eventually the ketoacidosis and everything will kick in. You will be in the hospital. So there's no not knowing if you have type 1 diabetes. That's another thing. And I thought it was just the flu getting worse. And I even told Jodi at one point, I remember looking out the window going, I feel like I'm dying. I remember that. Literally feeling like I was dying. And the first doctor I had who checked my blood sugar, which was over 500, should have sent me somewhere.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
That's
he said,
so dangerous.
He said, just, go. He sent me home and he told me not to eat. Yeah, not to eat healthy. So what did I do? I went and bought a bunch of fruit and other things which were loaded with sugar, which only compounded the problem. Technically healthy foods, the absolute wrong thing to buy.
He didn't know what he was looking at.
Right. And but what you're probably remembering is the first time I did go down the aisle and I asked my diabetic nurse about they've got a whole end aisle of this sugar-free stuff. She's like, don't bother with that. It's going to be the same thing. And then, plus it's got all these, the artificial sweeteners and all those kinds of things in it. You're not saving that much. If you want a cupcake, just eat a cupcake, or if you want, a small bowl of ice cream or whatever, anything that you do responsibly, because it's not, at the end of the day, all of those things, those baked goods, they're still just like the ones, they still have the components of the ones that have sugar, if that makes sense.
It's still going to turn into sugar in your bloodstream.
Yeah. So, the other thing, Lori, I would say that the benefit is you almost can see inside your own body once you learn how to do blood sugar and all the other things. I don't mean, excuse me, I don't mean preventing, other health problems. That's not what I mean by that. I'm just talking about how the body itself functions with what you eat, and you will immediately, know what things are, too much, and what is not enough, and the different. And you start to learn about things that do have carb that you would never think about, because as a kid, I was taught all vegetables are good, all fruits are good. But, some vegetables are starchy vegetables. They've got carb. You've got to count that. You've got to dose for that.
It's not that it's not good for you. It's just that he has to dose insulin for potatoes, et cetera.
But they do say that somewhere in the near future, and they are so close on this with a number of these pumps, the pumps are getting smaller to the point where you don't and I don't, did we do a podcast on this one already about the advance that I found out from my endocrinologist last time? Did I tell you about the new way of blood sugar measurement?
I don't remember if you told me at home or you told us here.
Anyway,
you didn't do it here. No.
Right. So, it's for birth control. There is a something that can be inserted under the skin, I guess, Jodi, that lasts for 6 months, 12 months, or something like that. It's the same thing now and it's close. Actually, I think the sensor may exist, but they push the sensor under your skin. You have to do that at the doctor's office, and they just localize numb the area.
You don't do that at the bathroom at work.
Yeah, you can't do that. Yeah, the current versions with CGMs, you can do that all day long yourself. But that, and then so there's nothing that's like, you don't have to change it. It lasts for a whole year, and it will communicate with its receiver. I don't think right now it communicates with all pumps. Is the whole thing. It's the integration, and every time they get these blood sugar, transmitters to work with a pump, the FDA has to approve it. Obviously, there's a lot of testing that goes into that, because if there's a misdosage of something, meaning an incorrect dosage, like an overdosing, that could put you in a bad spot.
Yeah.
But it's getting to the point where, the pumps some of the pumps don't even have screens on them anymore. They're strictly operated by your phone, or they're pre-programmed in advance. And so, and they're like literally the size of about the size of a credit card. One of them is about half the size of a credit card. It's thicker than a credit card, but in terms of width. And so it's very possible here in the next couple of months or so, some pretty significant advances in that. I'm excited about the subdermal, the thing that goes under the skin, because if I don't have to change, right now I'm changing my CGM. I wear a Dexcom G7. They're about to authorize those to go 15 days instead of 10, which will be great. But right now it's every 10 days. It shuts itself off, so there's no way for you to wear it for longer than 10 days. And again, I'm used to it now. And G7's smaller than the G6. It's easy. But having it under my skin for a year and not having to worry about that is pretty awesome.
Where do they put it, in your arm?
Yeah, it goes up. Okay. I don't know what part of the arm or where. They know where they want to put it, but probably around a bicep or somewhere. That'll look great when I'm working out.
27 years you've had it. Do you still have frustrations occasionally? I mean, other than, your pump's acting up or something like that, that's not, it is diabetic related, but it's not diabetic related. I mean, just frustration that you're having to do this still every day, or are you past that?
No, I mean, if the pump, it only gets my attention when something like the pump or the CGM aren't working properly.
Right.
And no matter what I do, I can't get my sugar to come down. And some days you're just going to have a day where you don't know what's going on inside of your body.
Correct.
You could be fighting a virus that never really turns into anything with symptoms, and that's your body's fight, mechanism, which in everybody raises your blood sugar, and in everybody, your body produces more insulin to offset that. For me, I've got the dose for that. It's the same reason that I've got to be really careful about steroid shots. Those are the kinds of things, or the prednisone, that kind of stuff. It's, if I absolutely need it, I can take it. But when I take it, I have to I have to do the pump at a higher rate. But I mean, I think the initial things that used to make me really angry aren't a problem. It's only when it happens in a moment of inconvenience. Mm-hmm. If all of a sudden, I'm ready to go to bed, and that's when the pump is out of insulin and it's time to change the G7, and nothing had alerted me before then, or if I just missed the alerts or whatever, that can be frustrating.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, honestly, I'm at a place in life where the benefit, as stupid as this sounds, the benefits for me are outweighing the negatives on it. Thanks to the technology. Mm-hmm. And I've learned so much. I mean, it's not an easy, discipline, but I've just a long time ago made up my mind. This was before our girls were born, Jodi, that I wanted to be around for Jodi. She and I were just in a new relationship. It was very clearly explained to me what the complications are like, because if you're not careful, it's probably less likely you're going to fudge things now if you're wearing a smart pump and you have a CGM and the continuous glucose monitor, and you have the smart aspects working in your favor to dose, because you don't have to think as much about some of those things, which is a relief.
And it's there in front of you.
Yeah.
It's data in front of you that's current in your body.
Right. But I'm so cognizant of those complications that I made some significant changes in my life, and like my eating style. I mean, I would say that I would say I'm an average eater. I mean, there are things I know that I'm losing weight now, and I'm using a lot less insulin because I'm eating less. But it's like anything else. You actually have to think about those things. But once you start to accept and know what those things are, and what's going to be a treat for you, and what is just like this is
not worth it.
You should know that this is going to add, if it's in a wrapper and you see the back and it says 500 calories, get ready to dose some insulin, because that's exactly what's going to happen,
We've also learned that the shinier it is in a restaurant, the more fat it has.
Yeah,
the slower
the oils
it is
and all that kind of stuff too.
If it's shiny, that's what that is.
But I'm really,
it's not just pretty.
It's a good question, because Sam, you've known me as long as Jodi has with the diabetes, and so I'm not. It has its frustrating moments, but I'm not really angry at it anymore. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm a healthier person. I know me. I mean, I'm Mr. Compulsive. If I see something, I want it, I get it. And it's always the way I've been, and I've really had to work on my relationship with, food and those things through the years to make sure that I understand what it really takes to manage this. Because with type 1, it's life or death. It depends on how long you're going to, prolong that.
Yeah.
And but because I actually have a meter and things that tell me what's going on inside of my body, I can't turn a blind eye to it and just ignore it. And if somebody is not insulin dependent, which is the case for a lot of type 2 diabetics, it is. And I used to wish that I was type 2. Jodi remembers that too. It's like, well, maybe they'll tell me this is type 2. Maybe I won't be insulin dependent. Maybe I can find some other way to manage it. But I also know in my brain, really what that meant is I don't want to have to focus this hard on what I'm eating. And so the gift for me of being insulin dependent is I had to learn those things.
Yeah.
I had to understand that, okay, these are the consequences of letting your blood sugar go high for long periods of time, and you have to know what your bodily limits are. And I've got, all this data in front of me to help keep me on track, whereas it would be easy to deny it if I had type 2 and, didn't really feel anything necessarily. And I wasn't in any real danger because I'm not giving insulin, blah, 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 blah. It's kind of like high blood pressure. That's why they call type 2 diabetes the silent killer. But, detection's a lot better now. Most people do go in for blood tests when they go to the doctor. Yeah. Fasting blood sugar is usually going to be one of those. Or if not, they'll know even if you're not fasting, what your blood sugar should be. If you go in and your blood sugar is 170, to throw that number out, they're going to flag that and say you need to come in for a fasting test so that they can see if you're, having issues. Because even with the worst meals that you'll eat, if you don't have type 1 diabetes and your body still makes insulin, you might get up around 130-ish, 140, maybe 150, somewhere in there. But your body knows how to correct itself and bring itself back down. So there are numbers that'll raise, red flags. But as Lori's daughter found out, when it's type 1, it's just, it manifests itself. You can wind up in the hospital. Ketoacidosis is what will, put you there. And so you will certainly know if you have it. But, you're going to do fine. Lori and your daughter's going to do fine because there's so much great tech. There's so much great support. There are people, who understand that, how to help you through all of those things, whether it's the anger part or the food part.
Acceptance.
Yeah, I mean, the endocrinologists in our country are top notch. The diabetic nurses in our country are top notch. To show you what a bond you build with them. I hadn't seen one of my diabetic nurses from 27 years ago. Coincidentally, got on a plane a few weeks ago. Pam is her name, and she was there. And it's like you have this instant reconnection of remembering all of the emotions and how she poured everything into making sure that I understood and I felt taken care of. And so, yes, there are so many tools at your disposal to be able to manage this and, enjoy your life, even when you have the tough moments. And yes, you're going to be mad at some of it. And yes, the numbers aren't going to be what you want always, and your A1C. And yes, it is a lifetime commitment, but it's all doable.
Yeah. Well done, Murphy. I know it's a lot to talk about. Yeah. We'll continue to do that too for you, Lori. And thank you for listening.
Missed any part of the show? Get it all on the Murphy, Sam, and Jodi podcast.